Good morning, I'm Jeff Snyder, and welcome to this very special edition interview of the Broadcast Retirement Network for the City of Los Angeles Deferred Compensation Plan. For those of you who are not familiar with BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network is the first streaming platform dedicated to providing independent and objective information to help individuals achieve financial security and independence. And we've collaborated with the City of Los Angeles and real estate expert and relocation expert Scott Fuller to discuss relocating in retirement, practical advice for those dreaming about making big moves.
Jeff, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And we've got a lot to unpack here, but I thought before we started discussing a lot of key topics around retirees and moving, let's talk about the U.S. real estate market. I want to get your perspective on not only California, but also what you're seeing across the United States of America.
Yeah, sure. As of today, as a lot of people who are watching this can attest to, the real estate market is moving very quickly. We've certainly seen a seller's market really increase quite a bit since COVID for the last 18 months. And we're seeing really the same conditions outside of California that we're seeing inside. So a lot of these markets are experiencing a lack of inventory, a lot of buyers out there, which has really shot up prices, by quite a bit in most markets. We're now just finally starting to see things slow down just a little bit. And so instead of getting in a lot of cases, 15, 20 offers, maybe we're getting, 4 to 5 offers. So we're seeing some signs of slowing down, but we do expect that the issues with lack of inventory will continue for the foreseeable future.
And Scott, what about how do interest rates, and we're hearing a lot in the popular press about interest rates and the Federal Reserve taking action, how does that indirectly relate to mortgage rates? So people thinking about taking a mortgage, getting a home, what do they need to be thinking about?
Well, I think that we've seen, interest rates have remained low for quite a long time. And just when we think we've seen the bottom, interest rates drop a little bit. So, as of today, we're still seeing interest rates on a 30-year fix right around 3%. 15-year fix is going to be closer to 2%. I don't expect that's going to change a lot, but what that does, Jeff, of course, that creates affordability for a lot of people, because if we had interest rates a couple percentage points higher, that's going to have a huge impact on a potential buyer's monthly payment. So it still has created, in my opinion, we've seen, prices go up a lot because of interest rates, but also because of buyer demand.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch this, and it's certainly something that people need to be thinking about if they're going to move at some level in retirement. Scott, let's talk about why people might be moving. So, you're talking with lots of different clients out there, talking to lots of different people. What are some of the top reasons why people decide to change homes, maybe move into a condominium, move into a smaller home, a larger home?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of dynamics and a lot of trends out there, Jeff. And one is, for people who are in California, maybe they've raised kids at their home in California. Those kids have gone off to college. Maybe they started a career out of state or elsewhere, and maybe they're having, they have grandkids now. So we see a lot of people who are following their kids where they're going to be able to stay close. And also a lot of people might have a dream retirement destination. Maybe they've dreamed of retiring in San Diego, Palm Springs, Florida, somewhere else in the US. And so a lot of people are following their dreams to be able to get there. And a lot of people are also moving because they need, retirement, obviously, a lot of people are going to be on a fixed income. So what area is going to be conducive to giving them a lower cost of living and perhaps, lower housing prices, lower taxes, different things like that. And especially with COVID, a lot of people from the coast, whether it's Los Angeles or San Francisco, we've seen people move east. They want some more space. They want more room. Maybe it's not just a larger house, but a larger, footprint for their lot size. So perhaps they're coming from, whether it's a condo, an apartment, maybe, a home that's on a 4,000 square foot lot. They're looking for something that might be on a third of an acre just to give them, a chance to spread out a little bit. And of course, with COVID, job changes, everything that we've seen, the dynamics of people being able to work remotely. That's allowed people to, go out maybe, 60 miles in a lot of cases, maybe out of state if that's what they've, looked to do. So there's a lot of more flexibility that's been added into that. And perhaps with, just they want to get away from some of the congestion, the big cities or the highly populated areas. So they're going east. Maybe they're going out of, Los Angeles, Orange County east to where maybe a little bit slower paced, a little bit more relaxed, low key. And so those are really kind of the main reasons that we're seeing people, look at different options of relocating from where they're at.
Yeah, I want to unpack one of these. There's a couple of things I want to follow up on. And let's talk about the dream retirement destination. For those out there thinking about where to live in California, I mean, there are tremendously beautiful places on the beach you can live. You can be in suburbia if you want. Is there a desire to, or something you need to think about in terms of expectation, the types of expectations you should have as you approach retirement? Because what you may want may not always align with what you can afford or what the market dictates.
Absolutely.
Currently.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jeff. There's a lot of variables that come into play with the reason that people are looking to make a move. And so, I kind of break it down into several different factors that if you're considering making a move, these are some of the things you should think about. First and foremost, and probably the most obvious, is the cost of living and the cost of housing. If you're looking at an area, whether it's in California, whether it's outside of California, you want to understand, is that going to be conducive to your budget? A lot of people have a lot of, for people who have benefited from home ownership, had a lot of equity built up in their home. So how much of that do they want to take and be able to spend on a new home? Usually, you're going to downsize in a lot of cases, but you want the finances to really make sense. So you've got to be able to study, the cost of living, the cost of housing, different things like that. Another big factor for people is climate. And Jeff, I get this question all the time. Scott, what are some areas that have the same climate as California? Well, the reality, unfortunately, there just aren't a lot. California, we're blessed with, in my opinion, probably the best climate in the United States. But you have to think about, you're going to give a little bit to gain more. That's really the expectation. And so you're going to have to look at potential areas that you're looking to move to. You might go to an area that's going to have 4 seasons or have a very cold winter and some snow. You might be okay with that. You might be looking to move, somewhere in the South where there's going to be a lot of humidity. So, how does that play into what you're looking for? So I think climate is a big piece of it. And also a lot of people are concerned with taxes. They want to look at, okay, if I'm going to be moving potentially out of state, the state that I'm considering moving to, what do the taxes look like? And we have 9 states that have no state income tax. And of course, a lot of those are offset by other taxes. They've got to get the revenue from somewhere. So you want to be able to study and find out what does the local tax rates look like, not only on the state level, but property tax level. Texas, for example, no state income tax, but their property taxes tend to be, anywhere from 2.5% to maybe 3.3%. And that's where they're kind of making up some of that income, for their public spending. And in a lot of cases, there are some areas where you're going to have a graduated property tax base, where when you turn 65, you either have decreased property taxes or there are no property taxes. And then, of course, we can drill down a little bit more. What do the sales taxes look like? How do they tax retirement income? So you want to study that to make sure it aligns with your financial goals. Another piece of it, Jeff, is lifestyle. What is it that you're looking for in your lifestyle? Maybe there's some hobbies, activities, things like that you've always wanted to do. Is the area that you're looking to go to, is that conducive to be able to fit your lifestyle and what your goals are with that? And for some people who are still working, maybe they're looking for new employment opportunities. Is the area that you're moving to, does it offer those types of opportunities, for employment? Especially for people who are in tech. Maybe they want to go to an area that is known as, kind of a secondary tech hub. Will those opportunities for employment be available there? And then as you kind of drill down a little bit as well, what are your medical needs? And so that's a big piece of it. Some people will say, Scott, we want to move to, such and such state, and we want to kind of be out, away from everything, whether it's an hour or 2 hours away. But then you have to think about, well, how does that impact your ability to get medical services? And if you have specific medical needs, are there practitioners there that, is going to allow you to have, take care of the medical needs that you have, not just today, but, in the future as well. And also considering just, what if you're looking to move out of California or, out of a major metro area, do you have any, either family, friends, or work commitments that might take you back to California or back to the area that you're going to? And so you want to find out, how am I within a good proximity to be able to get back to those types of commitments? So does it make us, does it make sense to go completely across the country, or do you need to stay somewhere that's going to be a reasonable distance to get back, to those types of things? And obviously you can drill down a little bit farther. If you have kids and you're looking to move, how do the schools rank, different things like that. But what I always recommend, Jeff, is, you take those factors and you break it down and prioritize it. What's most important to you, and how do we rank that? And that can help you to be able to determine what your strategy is going to be to make the right decision.
Yeah, I feel like you might need a sheet of paper, the old pros and cons to write all these things out.
That's
Scott.
a great place to start.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to mention or talk to you about is medical costs. And I've seen the studies. Medical costs for a couple retiring today, I think I saw this from a well-known retirement plan provider, well over $200,000 to $300,000 for a couple. We can only assume that number is going to go up with inflation. But I just want to hone in on this. It's really important, and we'll talk about how you do this research in a minute, but it's really important to know where you're going to get your medical expenses, or excuse me, how are you going to pay your medical expenses, but where are you going to go to get treated? Where's the local hospital? Are there urgent care clinics, places that you can go? How do you find a doctor? All that kind of good information.
Absolutely. And especially if you have a certain insurance coverage, does that coverage extend into the area that you're wanting to go to, or would you have to look at new insurance options? So certainly a lot of considerations around the medical piece of it.
Yeah, Scott, you've given us a lot of factors, and look, I would love to talk to you about each and every one of them. But if you're out there trying to do research, where do you go to get information? Because there's obviously a lot of companies out there, a lot of sources, but how do you get independent, unbiased information to help you make the best selection possible and where to live?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. We're fortunate that we have a lot of information out there, a lot of resources, and sometimes it can become very overwhelming because, you get this data dump in your mind and you're trying to figure out how to piece it all together. But the reality is, and I think we're going to have some links that are going to be posted along with this program. But, there's a lot of great resources that outline state taxes specifically. And then there's also the talk about, local costs of living, schools. Obviously, when you're looking at homes, there's a lot of great resources to find out how much homes cost, what you can get for your dollar, different things like that. But you also want to make sure as part of your strategy, consult with your CPA or your financial planner to find out how that, the local areas are going to play into your financial strategy and what you're looking to accomplish. You want to make sure that it's conducive, and the best way to do that is to start early. You want to talk to the professionals. And here's another thing, Jeff, that I always recommend to people. When you're considering an area to go to, it's very common for people to go to visit that area. What you want to do is you want to visit it in the wintertime and in the summertime, because a lot of areas, now California, you don't necessarily have to do that because we don't have these extreme differences in climate. But in other areas, you want to find out, hey, am I going to be able to handle this, the 3 months in the wintertime or the 3 months in the summertime? So definitely visit twice a year in those two time periods to make sure, that it backs up what you're thinking, it's going to be, and it's going to be a good fit for you.
Yeah, just to pick up on something you said, and I like the fact, and we've been talking throughout this conversation about taxation and the cost of living. Really important, if you don't do it yourself and you have a professional, really important to talk to that individual or individuals about what this could mean to your spending in retirement. Even if you're close to retirement or you're thinking down the line, all of these factors, Scott, weigh into your spending behavior and what you can expect to spend in retirement.
Absolutely. And the last thing you want, Jeff, is some surprises out there because you hadn't thought of factor A or factor B. So getting it all done ahead of time is certainly going to make it a much easier transition and help to, set and meet your expectations.
Scott, we've all gone online or gone and visit different properties, and there are different property types that people need to be aware of and need to figure out how they fit into different lifestyles. Can you illustrate what some of those types are?
Absolutely. So, Jeff, what we normally see is people are looking at, if they're looking to purchase a property, they're going to be buying either, a condo, a townhome, or a detached single family home. That's going to be most common. Some of those homes might be in a planned unit development. It might have a homeowners association with monthly fees. But when we're talking with retirees, they have to plan a little bit further than that. So they might want to think, maybe I want to get into a 55 plus active adult community. Now, those can be great for a lot of single people and couples who are very active, they're very social, and they want to quickly meet people and quickly adapt to the area. There's some beautiful, beautiful communities across the US, including in California, that offer all kinds of services, activities, everything that you could want and really help you acclimate a lot quicker. So you want to think about, would this be the type of community that I would be interested in? And there's a lot of great resources online as well that outline where these communities are located, how much they cost, and the different types of amenities that they offer the folks that are buying there. So the fit for retirees, the 55 plus is something to consider. You can also, and in fact, we had a client who we moved. She was single and she was approaching her 70s, and she was moving from California and wanted to move to Arizona, a city called Chandler. She didn't know anybody. We moved her into a very nice active adult trilogy community, and she absolutely loves it. She was able to meet people really quickly. So again, that could be a great option for some people to consider. You could also look at independent living retirement communities, which are areas that you could either, you could buy or you could lease, and they're going to provide meals, laundry, housekeeping, different types of services for you if you feel that you need that. Now, some people don't need that, but that could certainly be a large benefit to somebody. So you might consider that type of, housing. Also, what's becoming more popular is what we call continuing care communities. And that's basically progressive living. So you can start living in an independent living scenario, but as necessary, you can move into assisted living. And then if necessary, from there, you can move into more of a nursing or a skilled facility. So those are becoming more popular because instead of having to start here and then move, 20, 30 miles away to get here and here, this will take you through, everything that you need to through end of life. So that can be something that, depending on what your needs are, that could be another option for you as well.
Scott, there are things called housing associations that people need to be aware of additional expenses. When you're thinking about these properties, and they all, as you mentioned, they have different fees, different services, how do you align what is going to meet your lifestyle not only today, but also in the future?
I think, Jeff, it's really about planning ahead and finding out what services are offered and how you take advantage of those services piecemeal, perhaps, right? So maybe at this point in my life, I only need these specific types of services, but these other ones are offered if in 5, 10, 15 years, I need those, additional services as well. So, most of those communities are very good about explaining the benefits and the services and if it's going to be a good fit for you or if it's not. Obviously they want to set a good expectation, but they want to be able to meet that expectation for the folks that are living there for their clients.
Scott, what areas of the U.S. are popular for retirees or those considering retirement?
Well, Jeff, I think you could probably guess number one. we'll say Florida. Florida is, it's a huge retirement destination for people, and they've got, some of the most incredible planned unit developments, 55 plus active adult communities out there. Two of the more popular ones and larger ones are called the Villages and also called Top of the World. So those are probably the best known ones. And we actually had a client that we moved to the Villages from California there, and it was a dream retirement destination for them. They absolutely love it. They drive their golf cart around. They don't even use a car. Everything is within short distance, and they've met a lot of great people, developed a lot of great relationships there. But there's a lot of other areas also in Florida that are really big. Sarasota, Tampa, Ocala has a large number of retirees as well. So Florida is a huge destination. We also see Arizona. Arizona's been known as, retirement destination, even if it's for second homes. For somebody who wants to be able to come into Arizona for, 6 or 7 months during the wintertime when it's very temperate, it's, a great climate. So there's a lot of areas, planned communities within Arizona. We're also seeing becoming more popular is in southern Utah, St. George. That's becoming a very popular destination. And also, I can mention Santa Fe, New Mexico certainly is an area that a lot of people like to go to. A lot of culture, a lot of art, beautiful landscaping, different things like that. Idaho, for people who don't mind a little bit colder of a climate, Eagle, Idaho, which is right outside of Boise, is a very, very big destination, as is Coeur d'Alene. And we've seen a lot of people move to those areas. And then you have areas, such as Nevada. Reno is certainly a large destination for a lot of people in Northern California. And then Las Vegas has really been a huge retirement destination with the large planned unit developments, 55 plus communities, and a lot of people from Southern California moving into the Las Vegas area. And let's not forget California, what California has to offer, because a lot of people, you want to stay in a state that is the most beautiful, that has the best climate. And so there's a lot of destinations when you get out into the desert cities, such as Palm Springs, Palm Desert, and also San Diego. So we see a lot of people choose to stay somewhat local, but just to be able to take advantage of some of those, closer destinations.
Yeah, maybe some fresh scenery. Scott, let's talk about some of the blocking and tackling. Use a football analogy here. I'm not sure people feel about that.
That
but
pertains,
let's talk about
yeah.
that. It is appropriate, right? How do you plan your move? We've all moved. We've all packed boxes, gotten boxes, packed boxes, wrapped things with bubble wrap. There's a lot, especially if you're going to move out of state or to a different town or city in California. You need to think about how you're going to move.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. The biggest piece of it, and sometimes the hardest for people to get across, is planning a strategy. What is this going to look like, and how does it play into my time frame? Some people might say, okay, I have a retirement date that I have set, and that's what I'm targeting. So perhaps they're waiting for retirement. Perhaps they're waiting for a son or a daughter to graduate from high school or from college. So there's always going to be a timeline that dictates this. But then it's okay. How far ahead do I start planning? And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's being able to plan and put together a strategy. What does the time frame look like? How am I going to be able to purchase a home? Do I require the equity for my existing home? How do we put all that together? And again, there's a lot of great experts out there, resources to help you find out how you put all that transition together. And then we get into a lot of the details, of course, getting your home prepped for sale, getting approved for a loan if you need one in the state that you're moving to, packing, utility services for your new home, mail forwarding, things like that. But it really starts with kind of putting together your strategy and your timeline to make sure that it's something that's going to be feasible for you to do.
Yeah, Scott, let's talk about getting approved for that loan. That's a financial aspect, and maybe people are thinking about relocating. Maybe they have paid off their mortgage.
Sure.
How you're going to pay for a home, important. Do you take a 30-year lease, or a 30-year mortgage? How do you line up that financing? And income and the ability to repay that mortgage is going to be top of mind for any lender.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a few different ways to look at this, Jeff, because you do have a lot of people who have enough equity in their home to be able to purchase something outright with cash where they're moving to. Now, does that mean it's the right financial strategy? Maybe not. And that's really where you want to get in with your financial planner and your CPA to find out, even if I can pay cash for the next home, is there a tax benefit to carrying some sort of a mortgage on it, even if it's a small mortgage? You might need the tax write-off in the end, right? Because we talk about, how your mortgage interest, your property taxes are generally deductible. So just because you can pay 100% cash doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best financial move to do that. So again, you want to have some consultation on that. When you are looking at, and you do need financing, regardless of which state you're moving to, most large banks finance in all 50 states. So we're talking about the Chase, the B of A, the Wells Fargo, different things like that. But you could also be looking at going the loan broker route, and the broker is going to have access to a lot of products, including those large banks' loan products. But they're going to be licensed in their specific state. Most California loan brokers aren't going to be licensed in any or many other states. So again, you might have to go local with a local broker in the state that you're moving to. So there's definitely a few different things to think about when you're looking at finance.
Scott, how do I prep my home for sale? I may not have sold my home in the last 10 years. A lot has changed with technology. I may not know what buyers are interested in terms of looking at a home. How do I get my home ready?
Yeah, Jeff, great question. I mean, first and foremost, you want to have an expert to help you through the process, and that's usually going to be working with a real estate professional to do that. You have to understand when in your home, what are the expectations? If you have people who are coming in, let's say you live a little bit inland and you have people generally coming in from the coast, those are usually the people that are coming in to buy homes in your neighborhoods. You have to understand what they're looking for because they're the most likely buyer for your home. What are their expectations? What are they looking for? You don't want to spend money that you don't need to spend. That's first and foremost. And people, tend to think, I've got to redo the kitchen because I don't like it or it's outdated. I've got to redo the bathrooms. There are things that are dollar for dollar worth investing in, but there are things where you're just basically throwing money down the toilet and you don't want to do that. So you want to find out what the expectations are, but you also want to find out what the current market is. Now, right now we are in a seller's market, so you can probably get away with doing a little bit less and still be able to get enough exposure for potential buyers for your home. Now, if you're looking for absolute top dollar, does it make sense to invest a little bit? Sure. But if we get into a market to where, it starts to even out a little bit, where we're even buyers, sellers, you might have to invest a little bit more and put a little bit more effort to be able to get your home marketable for the right buyer. So again, Jeff, it comes back to having a real estate professional who's local, who understands who the typical buyer is, what the expectation is, and what it's going to take for you to get the amount that you want from your home.
Scott, we've laid out a lot of tips and things that people need to think about. How do you get yourself prepared mentally to make a move, especially if you're leaving the city? Maybe you've been in for many, many years. You're leaving behind some family. That's got, we just went through and are going through some really challenging times that are mentally challenging.
Absolutely.
How do you prepare yourself to get ready to make a move?
Yeah, Jeff, that is so common. And we prepare in our mind our own mental obstacles, which may or may not exist. And that's the hardest thing for us to get through. You have to really determine, first of all, your why. Why are you looking to make a move? And when you do that, you're going to realize that there are going to be things that you're going to give up, whether it's climate, whether it's location, whether it's the coffee shop down the street that you've loved to go to. But when somebody's been in a city or a neighborhood or specifically a home for 30 or 40 years, it is a very, very tough mental transition to consider and visualize yourself being somewhere else. And that's where I think you really have to write down a list. And like you said earlier, Jeff, the pros and cons list. Why am I doing this? And you'll create the motivation to be able to overcome a lot of those fears and a lot of the things that you have concerns about. Again, some might be valid and some you might be creating in your own mind as a roadblock for you getting to the place that you really want to be. So is the perceived benefit large enough, for you to make this move? And in a lot of cases it is, but you just have to be able to recognize that. The other thing, Jeff, is there's going to be people who support you in your decision to move because they feel it's going to be the right move for you. And there's going to be other people who may not support the decision. And maybe that's selfishly because they just don't want to see you go. Completely understandable. But you have to be able to talk to the people who will support you and maybe just kind of, not listen too much to the people who, are saying it's not a good idea, but perhaps for their own, personal benefit. So I think that's a big piece of it. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was going to say, I mean, what you're kind of articulating here, this whole process, and I would think that I'd be if I didn't have a process and I didn't allow myself enough time, I'd feel all this anxiety. But actually, if you take the longer you take, the more methodical you are with planning this out, I would think that maybe your anxiety drops.
It really is. I mean, the key is you have to break it down into manageable steps. So here's step one, here's step two, so on and so forth. You have to give yourself time to process those steps. Now, we've worked with people who, from the time that we've had a first conversation with them to the time that they've moved and sold their house and purchased another house in a period of as short as 2 to 3 months. Now, that's not the norm, but some people process that a little bit more quickly or can get through the steps more quickly. Some people need a little bit more time. Take your time in doing it. If it takes you 3 years, because that's just how long it takes you, and it wasn't necessarily, we're planning for an event for 3 years, so that's when it's going to take place. But if it takes you several years to put it all together, that's fine. But like you said, Jeff, if you put it into manageable steps, it'll make you more comfortable, more confident. You feel like you're taking control of your journey, your own destination, and it helps you to get through those steps a little bit quicker. And again, having a good support team, whether it's professional or personal, is going to give you the outcome that you're looking for. And the real, keep an open mind, because we understand that if you're making a move and it's a large move like this, chances are you've done something like this before. Now, maybe it was when you were younger and maybe you felt a little bit more confident, you had more freedom, you felt, it was just easier to do that. You didn't have as many responsibilities, whatever that looks like. You've done this before and you can do it again. It's just the next step for you in your life journey.
Yeah, really, really optimistic outlook. Scott, you've given us a lot to think about today. I want to thank you very much for joining us on the program, and thanks for sharing your perspective.
Jeff, my pleasure. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you, Scott. Great to have you on the program. And this wraps up this very special episode for the City of Los Angeles Deferred Compensation Plan. Remember, to get all the information related to the city's plan, visit the plan's homepage at la457.com. Until next time, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.